I'm Chris with Everyman Overland. Today, we're here to compare the do-it-yourself 4-tire air inflation system in a 1/4 inch versus a 3/8 inch. And as you're watching this, I'd like you to keep 2 questions in mind. Which one of these 2 air systems do you think will air up the truck faster? And exactly how much faster do you think the 3/8 will be? What I'm gonna be doing here today, I'm sure because it's wildly my most popular video, most of you have probably seen, if you've seen my channel, you've seen the video where I created my own 4-tire air inflation system. Like I said in the video, it's not rocket science, I just kind of put it together. What this video is gonna be is, I've had a few people request that I test out the difference between 3/8 hose and 1/4 inch hose. In the video where I made the inflation system for the first time, I had to choose between, do I want to order the 3/8 hose or I want to order the 1/4 inch hose? And I went with the 1/4 inch, not knowing if that was going to be the right play or is it not going to carry enough air, etc., etc. As it turns out, I've been wildly happy with that system. It has been flawless, it's fantastic. And I came to the decision that the 1/4 inch hose was the way to go because it is physically smaller, it's a little bit lighter weight. I mean, we're talking a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter weight, easier to get, and it seems that all of the fittings that you use are 1/4 inch NPT anyway. What I have found using the 4-tire system is that the hose that I chose, the actual system itself, isn't so much the holdup for slowing things down. I've found that the tire valves can't move enough air to support the rest of the system. So my MaxiTrack compressor that I'm using is capable of moving more air than 4 tire valves can accept at a time. Because what happens is, as I'm running all of this, everything's hooked up, you'll actually end up with more pressure in the system than is in the tire, which means it's binding up in the system and desperately trying to get in the tires through the tire valves. So I think, if I'm going to be scientific about this, and I'm trying to be at least somewhat fair or scientific about testing the 2 systems versus each other, my guess here is this isn't going to make a bit of difference. I have tried here to give every advantage possible to the 3/8 system to allow, hey, let's get more air moving, just to prove that it's, or test, I guess, that it's not the system, it's not the hose, that it's in fact, it's just the tire valve. So I'm going to switch out to this high flow coupler kit from Milton. This piece here is actually what's on the compressor, and then the fittings that plug into that on both systems will be the same. So that way we know that we're moving as much air as possible. I'm using a 3/8 manifold. So this is 3/8 NPT, and like my close-off valve here, that's actually 3/8. But I'm here to tell you the rest of the fittings, like on the gauge, all of the fittings that you can get for all of this, for the tire valves, for everything else, they're all 1/4 inch NPT. There doesn't seem to be a lot of support for 3/8 NPT in the portable, use it like my compressor at the house, whatever. Everything's 1/4 inch NPT. That just seems to be the way they do things. So I got everything that I could in 3/8 so that I wouldn't have to adapt that down. And then I got a big set of adapters here so that things like this gauge that can't be 3/8, that have to be 1/4 inch, I'm just going to adapt those down. But all of the ends on the hoses, these are all 1/4 inch. The chucks that attach to the tires, these are all 1/4 inch. Everything's 1/4 inch. And I got 3/8 T-fittings, but the only thing that I'm doing a little bit different on this system than I did on the last one, on 2 of the hose ends, the 2 that actually hook up to the manifold here, these have a swivel on them to let the hose kind of swivel back and forth. I'm just kind of testing that out to see how I like it. It's a little bit more expensive to do it this way, so let's see how it comes out. Okay, so here are the 2 hoses actually sitting next to each other. You can see this one is old and nasty and filthy and dirty because I've been using it for the last year, and this one's brand new and shiny, so we all like this one better just because it's clean, right? So as you see here, you look at the hoses next to each other, and you can see that the 3/8 is a little bit larger than the 1/4 inch that I've got over here. Sitting next to each other, this one is still coiled up from the factory. It's a little bit nicer, it's packed in a little bit better. The 3/8 weighs a little bit more than the 1/4 inch. And I mean, just looking at them sitting next to each other, it looks like this is going to take up a little bit more room down in the case that I've made here for my tire compressor. when I'm out on the trail, I carry this system in that case. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit worried that the 3/8 isn't going to fit in there because the 1/4 inch is already kind of a snug fit. Now, this is just a ARB case that I found someone was selling on Facebook for like 15 bucks. I dropped the compressor in there. It's worked perfect so far, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and get the system put together, get it, whatever, everything cut to length, put together. If you haven't seen my video where I made this tire inflation system the first time, you can go back and watch that. I won't bore you with all the details again, but what I will say is I'm gonna lay the thing out on the ground and make sure that everything is cut to the same length so that I'm being, again, science, right? I'm being as fair as I can with the system. Plus, I'm really happy with the original system that I've got. Everything fits real well, it fits the truck, so I'm just gonna go ahead and produce the second one just like I did the first. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done for you. Okay, so just thought I'd show you real quick here just kind of how these fittings work. Now, these are both, this is Flexzilla hose and this is a Flexzilla fitting. I really like these fittings because if something happens to the hose, you can just take this apart. You can see this is just a piece that slides onto the hose here, and this just protects it as it's bending. So when it gets out to the end and you're putting this on the tire and things are getting flexied around, this coil here protects the hose inside from bending too far, pinching off, or getting cut on something. So you just kind of slide that on there. And then the way this joint works, so these two pieces screw together. This has, I don't know, it's got a nipple, but I don't know that you'd call it anything else. So this has a nipple that goes inside the hose, and that flares the hose out. And then as this piece screws in over the top of it, it kind of sandwiches the hose together inside. So you take this and you slip that over there, and you can see that once that's in there and that hose is up over this ridge, as that screws together, it pinches that hose super tight up against this fitting here. So if something happens out on the trail, you can just break your wrenches out, pull this apart, trim the hose back if you need to, put it back together, and you're up and running. If you're using like a crimp style fitting, it's a permanent fitting and you can't take them apart. This is a little bit more expensive, but I just prefer this because I want to know that I'm going to be able to make it home if I get out on the trail and something needs to be done. Okay, so I've had a little bit of a wardrobe change here because even though I might be the smartest guy in the room, I didn't order enough fittings. So I had to order some new fittings because I didn't have enough, but now I have enough and now it's done. The 3/8 system is complete, it's whole, it's ready to go. So we've run into the first problem. I talked about the fact that the 3/8 hose, it's just physically larger, and I was worried about not fitting in the case. Well, guess what? It does not fit in the case. I've been out here wrestling with this for 5 minutes. Fold this over, push this down, push this in. I can't. It's not gonna work. So I can't put it in that case. Doesn't mean I can't take it with me. Now I can get myself a different bag. I can put it in a different bag. I can put the air system into a bin that goes in. I'll get it there. It'll get done. But there's no sense taking the extra bulk with you and trying to jam it in there and get it into that same case or whatever if it's not gonna help. So let's take it outside. Let's go ahead and test it. Same compressor, same setting, same everything. Let's go ahead and test the 1/4" hose versus the 3/8 hose. I've already got Janky parked out front, so let's take it out there and see what it does. Okay, so I'm now out here at Janky, ready to go. I actually have all 4 tires already flattened. I pulled the valve cores out. There's 0 pressure in those tires. Just thought I'd give you a quick little note so that nobody comes in the comments and says, well, but you didn't change it. Okay, so this is the manifold that I built for the 3/8 system. And you can see that because everything has to be done with these 1/4" fittings, you can see that I have a 1/4" fitting going into a 3/8 and the 3/8 goes into the manifold. And that's just everywhere, except I actually have, for the ball valve, this is a 3/8 setup. Now, I had to put an adapter to go down to the 1/4" here, but that's the high flow 1/4" fitting, so that should be good. I actually purchased 2 of these 3/8 ball valves, and I was going to change this out in the 1/4" version, but as I look down in there, the ball that moves in here that closes this valve off and all 100% of the air has to flow through right there, same size as that one. Like, I realize the housings are slightly different, but when you look down in there, it's the same size. So I was gonna change this one out on the 1/4" setup just to try and be fair. I was gonna change this out to the 3/8 with an adapter and whatever, but there's no need. There's no advantage because the ball that acts as the valve, same size. So, no further ado, let's go ahead and get this party started. Okay, step 1 complete. 1/4" hose test came out just under 5 minutes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and let the compressor cool off for a little bit. I'm gonna drain the air back out of the tires again. We'll swap out to the 3/8, see how that does. The 3/8 system has been deployed, installed, however you wanna say it. And I will say that as I was running it out to the tires and plugging the things on the valves and clicking this to this, everything is so much bigger and beefier, and it just feels much more substantial. Well, let's see if it moves any more air. Let's get this thing fired up, see how it runs. Okay, so explain that one. The 3/8 system with the larger hose, the larger fittings, everything else that I could find to give it an advantage to put in this, that, whatever. I used the same clip-on tire valves. Everything's the same except for all the air fittings were larger and the air hose was larger. Took a full minute longer to air up. Now, maybe it was because the compressor had already been used. I let it cool off for about 5 minutes. It was nice and cool to the touch. It tended to heat up a little bit faster. So maybe we could give it that, right? But was that worth a full minute difference? I just don't know. The only other thing I can think of is possibly it's the swivel connector, that the hole in the swivel connector is smaller, but I mean, this is a swivel connector built for a 3/8 hose. I think what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to order up some different hose ends just like this that don't have the swivel on them and see if that makes the difference. So, Amazon, here I come. Okay, so fast forward a couple weeks. We are now back from Windrock, so I've got a chance I can work on this again. Hopefully you've, yeah, there's Bjorn over there. See, Bjorn? Hey. Hopefully you've had a chance to watch at least one of my Windrock videos before I get this out. But now it's time to kind of get down to throwing the ball for the dog, apparently, is what I'm supposed to do. Now's the time to get down to the bottom of what's going on with this 3/8 versus 1/4. I have my package of new fittings to replace the swivels that are in question. I really don't think they're in question. I'm gonna replace them anyway, just to make sure that I'm doing this right, just to make sure that there isn't something silly that I'm overlooking. All right, so I just kind of thought I would show you something that I found here when I was getting ready for Windrock. So the theory of this video, what we're doing here is we're comparing these two hoses, right? We've got the 3/8 hose here, we've got the 1/4" hose over here, and you can see the size difference between these two. I have been switching out to these giant, massive air hose fittings so that you can get extra air through here. So you can actually compare there the size of this fitting versus that fitting. They're both 1/4 inch, but this has a much higher flow rate because the hole is much bigger, right? And then the 3/8 and the 1/4 inch hose. Okay, so here's something else that I found when I was actually changing out the hose, which is down here. This is the hose right here for the end of the compressor. Like this pigtail comes off the compressor and then you plug the whole system in here. Well, I wanted to take, instead of taking the maxi track, I wanted to take my Tozalaz width, and instead of cutting, this is the one that was on my maxi track, you can see I cut it here and I put a different fitting in so that I could use this style fitting, and I just didn't have any extra ones around. I just swapped out the whole hose. Well, you can see here, this has the Nitto style fitting, so that's the Japanese style fitting that all these Chinese compressors use. You can see this is the one that I cut off. Well, if you can see down through there, you can kind of see the size of the hole that's moving all of the air through this on this Nitto fitting. And you can kind of compare that to like the high flow fitting. It's not as big as the high flow fitting, and it's probably just a teeny bit bigger than the standard fitting. Well, here's what I found. Yeah, this Nitto fitting, great. All these fittings, great. Yeah, don't worry about it. How about the end that comes out of the compressor? It's really hard to see. You can't get light through the other end of this, but this fitting here is only slightly larger than the 1/4 inch hose, and the hole that's down inside there is smaller than 1/4 inch. So we're going through all this trouble so I can swap out to the 3/8 hose from the 1/4 inch. Never mind compare the hose to this or that, or the fitting over here, over there. Coming out of the compressor, everything goes through this. This is, plugs right into the body of the compressor. And that's the only hole you'll get. So I guess I spent all this money for nothing, but let me change everything out. We're gonna run the tests again, see how it goes. Okay, and just so that we can kind of show exactly why I'm changing this out, so I'm being as fair as I can, this here is the swivel fitting, and this is just a standard fitting. They're both 3/8 hose fittings, and you can see by looking through this one, the hole just goes straight through, and this one, there's a little bit of a reduction in there. So that's why I'm going through all this process to change this out, and be careful with the razor blade. I already cut myself. See, I bleed for you guys. But that's why we're going through this again right now, just to make sure that this isn't the difference that we're seeing. I really doubt it is, but we'll find out. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and hook up the tire system to the tires. I'm gonna get all 4 tires dead flat, right? What you just saw, when we came up with that weird test result a minute ago, I ran the 1/4 inch first and then I ran the 3/8. And possibly, I didn't let the compressor cool off long enough. So the way I'm gonna do this today, I'm gonna flatten all 4 tires. I'm gonna go ahead and do it exactly the same way I did it last time. I'll run the 1/4 inch first, and then I'm gonna run the 3/8. And then I will reverse it and I'll do the 3/8 first and then the 1/4 inch. And even though that the day is progressing and what about the temperature, things may not be exact, I think things are gonna be close enough that we should be able to say, well, when we did the 1/4 inch first and this one now, we can tell if it was the compressor that was slowing things down because the compressor had overheated and didn't get enough chance to cool down, or if it's actually the air system. So we're gonna go ahead and run, I gotta do this 4 times. This is gonna take up the rest of my day, but that's all right. We're doing this for you. Okay, so tires are flat. You can see, and a bit of air in them, right? We're actually at 0 PSI on the gauge. Another thing that I did, and you can see the gauge there, 0 PSI. So one more thing that I've done here is I went ahead and I switched out all the fittings on the 1/4 inch to utilize the high flow air fittings right here, and I'll do it with my busted up finger. So for the 1/4 inch, and you can see that this is the 1/4 inch hose, this is not the 3/8. I'm gonna be using the same manifold for both tests. Just that way, we know that it's not something goofy with the manifold that's causing a change. I'm really trying to get this down to as close as just, this is different hose. Here's your 3/8, here's your 1/4 inch, everything else is the same. So I'm gonna run the same manifold on both tests. What we're gonna do is fire this up, and we're gonna time how long it takes to inflate this way, and then I'll start deflating it. I think I'm actually gonna let the compressor cool for 30 minutes, so I will time that as well. So we're gonna do a 30-minute cool down cycle on the compressor. But for now, let's get this guy started. Okay, 5 minutes, 23 seconds, and I am starting a 30-minute timer to let the compressor cool off. $6.51. Don't get it, y'all. I don't understand why, but we've almost exactly repeated the results from last time. That the larger hose took about a minute longer. Okay, next round. We are now, you can see we're back at 0 PSI. Tires are flat as hell down there. One thing I did to make sure that the compressor was just as cold as possible is I actually set it down in front of that fan. So that fan's been blowing on it, and it's, I don't know, it's probably 45 or 50 degrees here in the shop today. So the compressor is, like, it's actually cold. So we're not dealing with any heat issues at this point. So now we're gonna go ahead and start the 3/8 again, but we're gonna start the 3/8 with a very, very cold compressor. $6.58. Here we are. You can see we're at 35 PSI, and 6:58 was the time. So we're pretty consistent now that the 3/8, it just takes longer. I don't know why, it just does. So I've got some theories. I actually talked to a mechanical engineer, but before we start talking about that, I'm gonna let this cool down, give it another 30-minute cycle. I'm gonna switch back over to the 1/4-inch system, and we're gonna run this test again in reverse, just to make sure we, dot the T's and cross the I's and erase the S or something. I don't know. We're on it. So there you have it, 35 PSI. We've watched it run both ways. The 1/4-inch hose, it's just faster. It's like a full minute faster. Let me go inside and I'll put all this down and write it down, make sure I've got all the numbers exactly right, and we'll read it off and just, I don't know, be bewildered. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up in here in my fancy editor studio with my toys and stuff. So I've got all the final numbers written down here on a little cheat sheet because you can't expect to remember all of this. And I think what's most important here isn't the actual numbers of, oh, well, it took 4 minutes or 5 minutes or 6 minutes, but the percentage difference between the 1/4-inch hose and the 3/8 hose. In the first test that I did that I was outside, where I just ran the one then the other and I still had the swivel elbows and all of that, we ran 4:54 and 6 minutes for a difference of 22%. Now, after I replaced the elbows and everything, I did the test inside. We did a 5:23 and a 6:51, and then a 5:44 and 6:58 for the differences of 27% and 21%. So I think we can kind of average things through and safely say that the 3/8 takes about 25% longer than the 1/4-inch. And I don't know why. I told you that I spoke with a guy I know who is a mechanical engineer. And Kyle, if you're watching, thank you. What Kyle and I were able to come up with, and the only thing that we could relate at the time, is that the 3/8 hose actually consists of a higher volume of air. That however long it is, I think I used probably 45 feet worth of 3/8 hose, 45 feet worth of 1/4-inch hose. The volume of air inside of there is going to be larger. So the compressor has to compress more air using the 3/8. And I have puppies. He wants me to throw the thing. Well, I can't throw it if you grab it out of my hand, jerk. So when you use the 3/8 hose, the compressor has to compress more air. It has to supply a higher quantity of air to air up the same 4 tires, because it also has to fill the hoses. And while that's very certainly true, I'm not sure that I buy that as the only thing that's going on here. I really think that there's another process happening that is causing the 3/8 to take so much longer. If it was just about volume, I mean, picture, if you will, here's a picture of the two systems sitting next to one of the tires. If we're off by 25%, that's a full tire, right? So that would be the volumetric equivalent of one tire. And neither one of these air systems, I haven't done the math, but neither one of these air systems even comes close to occupying the same volume as one of those tires. I would suffice to say if it was 1% as much, it would probably be about where I'm at. So if the difference was, 1%, maybe even call it 5%, I think we could go with that. But I think and I don't know what it is. If you guys have any ideas out there, I would love to hear them. But I don't know what it is that's causing the 3/8 to take so much longer. I've got a working theory in my head about when the compressor is compressing air, it's not a smooth motion, right? It pumps and it pumps and it pumps and it pumps, and so you get these spikes. And if you have a higher volume of air within the lines, which essentially turn into one large manifold, that higher quantity of air is able to absorb those pulses a lot easier. And with the lower quantity of air, and it actually fluctuates, I think that little push can push more past the tire valve. And I don't know if that makes the difference. Honestly, I don't know what it is, but here's where it's at. So if you're still awake, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for making it this far. Hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think it is. Maybe you've got a mechanical engineering background and you're like, well, duh, it's because of I can't even come up with any ideas. But call me stupid. Tell me what's going on. I would love to hear it. I'm kind of not done with this because I kind of want to test another couple things. I actually have a CO2 canister out there that I'm going to be making a video about, hey, this is how you build your own power tank kind of thing. So maybe with the CO2, if we can regulate the thing at 125 or 100 PSI and maintain that high pressure within the whole system, maybe the 3/8 makes a difference for the positive at that point. But we'll find out. So keep watching for that. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Hit me in the comments. Let me know if you've got any crazy ideas as to why this is doing what it's doing. Like, subscribe, do all the things. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Jesus, the light in here. Okay, so there's a fucking light in here. This is the worst light ever to film in. Ever. Okay.